Good morning, first grade families. It's Wednesday, April 22nd, and the book that I'm going to read today is kind of a cool one because I'm working from home, so I found one of my books from when I was a little girl, and it was called Fairy Tales. This was my favorite book, and it's a very old book. Actually, this book is 57 years old. I'm not 57 years old, but this book is 57 years old. So, it has all sorts of fairy tales in it. Some of them are long. You can see how old. It's gotten a lot of use. I even found scribbles in the back of the book. I think I might have made those, or one of my sisters. So the story I'm going to read to you today is one of my favorites. It's called The Emperor's New Clothes. There's not a lot of pictures in this book, but I will show you the ones that are here. So The Emperor's New Clothes. Many years ago, there was an emperor who was so excessively, a lot, fond of new clothes that he spent all his money on them. He cared nothing about his soldiers, nor for the theater, nor for driving in the woods, except for the sake of showing off his new clothes. He had a costume for every hour of the day, and instead of saying, as one does about any other king or emperor, "He is in his council chamber," here one always said, "The emperor is in his dressing room." Life was very happy in the great town where he lived. Hosts of strangers came to visit every day, and among them, one day, two swindlers. Swindlers is another word for thieves or stealers. They gave themselves out as weavers and said that they knew how to weave the most beautiful stuffs imaginable. Not only were the colors and patterns unusually fine, but the clothes that they were made of the stuffs that had this peculiar quality of becoming invisible to every person who was not fit for the office he held, or if he was impossibly dull, which means not very smart. Those must be splendid clothes, thought the emperor. By wearing them, I should be able to discover which men in my kingdom are unfitted for their positions. I shall distinguish the wise men from the fools. Yes, I certainly must order some of that stuff to be woven for me. He paid the two swindlers a lot of money in advance so that they might begin their work at once. They did put up two looms and pretended to weave, but they had nothing whatever upon their shuttles. On the outset, they asked for a quantity of the finest silk and the purest gold thread, all of which they put into their own bags, which they worked away in the empty looms far into the night. I should like to know how those weavers are getting on with this stuff, thought the emperor, but he felt a little unusual when he reflected that anyone who was stupid or unfit for his post would not be able to see it. He certainly thought that he need have no fear for himself, but still he thought he would send somebody else first to see how it was getting on. Everybody in town knew what a wonderful power the stuff possessed, and everyone was anxious to see how stupid his neighbor was. I know stupid's not a nice word. I will send my faithful old minister to the weavers, thought the emperor. He will be able to see how the stuff looks, for he is a clever man, and no one fulfills his duties better than he does. So the good old minister went to the room where the two swindlers sat working on the empty looms. Heaven preserve us, thought the old minister, opening his eyes very wide. Why, I can't see a thing. But he took care not to say so. Both the swindlers begged him to be good enough to step a little nearer and asked if he did not think it a good pattern and beautiful coloring. They pointed to the empty loom, and the poor old minister stared as hard as he could, but he could not see anything, for of course there was nothing to see. Good heavens, he thought, is it possible that I'm a fool? I have never thought so, and nobody must know it. Am I not fit for my post? It will never do to say that I cannot see their stuffs. So there's a picture of the old minister. Well, sir, you don't say anything about the stuff, said one who was pretending to weave. Oh, it is beautiful, quite charming, said the old minister, looking through his spectacles. This pattern and these colors, I must certainly tell the emperor the stuff pleases me very much. "We are delighted to hear you say so," said the swindlers, and they named all the colors and described the peculiar pattern. The old minister paid great attention to what they said, so as to be able to repeat it when he got home to the emperor. Then the swindlers went on to demand some more money, more silk, and more gold to be able to proceed with the weaving, but they put all of that into their own pockets. Not a single strand was ever put onto the loom, but they went on and on as before, weaving at the empty loom. The emperor soon sent another faithful official to see how the stuff was getting on and see if it would soon be ready. The same thing happened to him as to the other minister. He looked and looked, but as there was only the empty loom, he could see nothing at all. "Is it not the most beautiful piece of stuff?" said both the swindlers, showing and explaining the beautiful pattern and colors, which were not there to be seen. "I know I am not a fool," thought the man, "so it must be that I am unfit for my good post. It is very strange, though, however, no one must know that I cannot see it." So he praised the stuff he did not see and assured them of his delight in the beautiful colors and the originality of the design. "It is absolutely charming," he said to the emperor. Everyone in the town was talking about this splendid stuff. Now the emperor thought he would like to see it while it was still on the loom. So, accompanied by a number of selected courtiers, among whom were the two faithful officials who had already seen the imaginary stuff, he went to visit the crafty impostors who were working away as hard as they ever could at the empty loom. "It is magnificent," said both the honest officials. "Only see, your majesty, what a design, what colors!" And they pointed to the empty loom, for they thought there was no doubt the others could see the stuff. There's a kind of a picture of all of them, of the ministers looking. "What?" thought the emperor. "I see nothing at all. This is terrible. Am I a fool? Am I not fit to be emperor? Why, nothing worse could happen to me." "Oh, it is beautiful," said the emperor. "It has my highest approval." And he nodded his satisfaction as he gazed at the empty loom. Nothing could induce him to say that he could not see anything. The whole suite gazed and gazed, but saw nothing more than the others. However, they all exclaimed with his majesty, "It is very beautiful," and they advised him to wear a suit made of this wonderful cloth on the occasion of a great procession which was just about to take place. "It is magnificent, gorgeous, excellent," went from mouth to mouth. They were all equally delighted with it. The emperor gave each of the men an order of knighthood to be worn in their buttonholes and the title of gentlemen weavers. They were being very dishonest. The swindlers sat up the whole night before the day on which the procession was to take place, burning 16 candles so that the people might see how anxious they were to get the emperor's new clothes ready. They pretended to take the stuff off the loom. They cut it out with a huge pair of scissors, and they stitched away with needles without any thread in them. At last they said, "Now the emperor's new clothes are ready." The emperor, with his grand courtiers, went to them himself, and both the swindlers raised one arm in the air as if they were holding something and said, "See, these are the trousers, this is the coat, here is the mantle," and so on. It is as light as a spider web. One might think one had nothing on, but that is the beauty of it. "Yes," said the courtiers, but they could not see anything, for there was nothing to see. "Will your majesty be graciously pleased to take off your clothes," said the impostors, "so that we may put on this new one along here before the great mirror?" The emperor took off all his clothes, and the impostors pretended to give him one article of dress after another. See, this is kind of a picture of the procession that they're going to have. Of the new ones which they had pretended to make, they pretended to fasten something round his waist and to tie on something. This was the train, and the emperor turned round and round in front of the mirror. "How well his majesty looks in the new clothes! How becoming they are!" cried all the people round. "What a design, and what colors! They are most gorgeous robes. The canopy is waiting outside, which is to be carried over your Majesty in the procession, said the Master of Ceremonies. Well, I am quite ready, said the Emperor. Don't the clothes fit well? And then he turned round and round in front of the mirror so that he should be seen to be looking at his grand things. The chamberlain who was to carry the train stooped and pretended to lift it from the ground with both hands, and they walked along with their hands in the air. They dare not let it appear that they could not see anything. Then the Emperor walked along in the procession under the gorgeous canopy, and everybody in the street and the windows exclaimed, "How beautiful the Emperor's new clothes are! What a splendid train! And they fit to perfection." Nobody would let it appear that he could see nothing, for then he would be not fit for his post, or else he was a fool. None of the Emperor's clothes had been so successful before. "But he has nothing on," said a little child. "Oh, listen to the innocent," said its father, and one person whispered to another, and the child had said, "He has nothing on." A child said he has nothing on. "But he has nothing on," at last cried all the people. The Emperor was upset, for he knew it was true, but he thought the procession must go on, and he held himself stiffer than ever, and the chamberlains held up the invisible train. The end. Thank you, boys and girls, and we'll read another story tomorrow.